Hello, I'm Peter Murray, and I'm here this afternoon with Catherine McGuinness. She's chair of the Policy and Resources Committee at the City of London. The chair of Policy and Resources is really the political leader of the city, so a very important figure in discussing the sorts of issues that we're going to be looking at today. So, Catherine, perhaps I could start by commenting that you must have had one of the toughest times in office of any chair of Policy and Resources, having spent the last 3 years battling the threats of Brexit and now dealing with COVID-19. What can you and the corporation do to combat these two very different threats?
Well, it certainly felt as if I haven't had a dull moment, I have to say. Interesting. I mean, with the Brexit situation, and of course, we focused very much on the financial professional services sector, what needs to be done there to ensure that markets continue to operate smoothly after we've left the EU. So it has been very much a focus on that sector. COVID brings in a whole other raft of considerations because it very much brings in our role as part of London government, the authority responsible for the square mile itself and the stakeholders in that space. And interesting because I think it's an opportunity for us to bridge those two roles. So I spent quite a lot of time speaking with other parts of London government about the practicalities of the London response, what we're actually doing to try to protect lives, to make sure that our open spaces are open and safe. But at the same time, talking with the financial sector about the loans that need to be made to prop businesses up at this difficult time, what we can start doing as we look towards the recovery. So for me, I suppose, a lot of it is around partnership, whether it's partnership with other parts of London or partnership with the sector, identifying what needs to be done and working together to try to achieve it.
But I suppose, I mean, you are the centre of globalisation in the city, really. How do you respond to those that see the pandemic as a reason perhaps for reversing some of those aspects of our business and 21st century life?
Well, I imagine it'll change some of the ways that we do business. It's been interesting to see how quickly people have adapted to remote working. But people will still want to work internationally. They'll still want to travel and see people in the flesh. And I don't see globalisation and international nature of what goes on in London changing at all. If anything, I think it'll become even more important that we see markets operating globally across borders. I will be interested to see how much of the changes in the way we work stick, and I'm sure some of them will, but London will remain a globally trading centre.
Now, the government has taken really unprecedented measures to reduce the economic impact of COVID-19, as of course has the Bank of England. And I presume that the financial services sector will also be playing their part in the coming months to support the investment and the sort of things that the country needs at this particular time. And could it, in that way, do you think, restore some of the public trust that it lost in the financial crisis of 2007, 2008?
Well, it's going to be quite a challenge. The financial sector has a huge role to play, financial and professional services, huge role to play. But, you know, I think we need to be frank that this is going to be a very difficult situation from which many businesses are going to have trouble recovering. So whatever the sector does, there are going to be issues where people feel let down. But I've been hugely impressed at what I've seen first from the regulators and government working together on the package of measures that's been put in place. And then from what I've seen from the sector stepping up to the mark, UK Finance, which represents the banks, working alongside the CBI, representing the businesses, the insurers looking at what they can do. I was talking with one insurance company this morning, for example, which has waived some of the premiums for a while for some of the voluntary sector and charitable organisations, which are playing a significant role in supporting communities. So I see examples across the piece where the sector is really stepping up to support in the immediate aftermath, but also looking towards the recovery and what it can do there. Will we get that message across? I think it's certainly something we will need to work on, because, as I say, there's going to be pain across the pieces to recover from this.
So if one looks at, might say, some of the positive elements that have come out of the current crisis, we have quieter, cleaner streets, there's less aircraft noise, all sorts of things that people quite like, and we want to hold on to some of those things. And I know that the Square Mile has a very advanced transport strategy which looks at cleaner streets, better conditions for cycling and walking, and also even a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. Do you think this will sort of speed up those policies?
Well, I hope it will. And we are very proud of our transport strategy for the next 25 years, and we do have great ambitions. The city is quite an overcrowded place with narrow pavements, an awful lot of traffic coming through, and with poor air quality, and we're determined to reverse that. I am hoping that we will have seen from this how it's possible to use different forms of transport, what the advantages are of having less traffic around. Of course, one of the challenges will be getting people back onto public transport safely and feeling confident as they travel.
Can you take us through that slightly? Because clearly people might have some reservations about getting on the tube immediately after this crisis. So do you think you're going to see lots of people coming in their cars instead? Or can you get them to take bicycles, perhaps?
Well, I'd love to see them take bikes. As you know, I'm a Brompton rider myself, but clearly that's not feasible for everyone. We haven't yet got into the detail, and I think we're going to need to work very carefully across the piece, looking at how the economy can start operating again, how people can come out of lockdown and get back to their offices. And I know that work is already starting on thinking through that, but I haven't myself got the answers yet, just the questions, I have to say.
And there are other very positive improvements that City has planned, such as the new Museum of London and then new Centre for Music. How do you see those going forward? Because we're going to be going through a time of, I would say, some spending restraint in the future, aren't we?
Well, I think there are going to be challenges. You know, we ourselves have put in place a package of measures to support our residents, our businesses and our tenants, which will have an impact on our finances. And indeed, many of our sources of finance will have suffered during this period. But we are very committed to our long-term projects, the move of the Museum of London to a new home, the consolidation of our 3 wholesale food markets, which, if we achieve that, will actually also have a regenerating impact on a large part of East London. And then our new courts complex. I think it will be really important in the post-pandemic era to show our confidence in London, to get the economy really back up and running, and we see our projects as part of that. But yeah, challenging times ahead.
So keep building and invest in infrastructure and new amenities is the way forward, do you think? Sort of New Deal?
Well, I think, I do think confidence in London, making sure that we have the best infrastructure in place, making sure people are encouraged to get back out on those streets. We will absolutely play our part, not just domestically, but also, we were talking a minute ago about London's international nature. We're not giving up on our overseas, our international facing work, even in these challenging times. We're busy speaking to major investors overseas, checking that people are happy with as happy as they can be with their place in London. We're really focusing on keeping strong relationships so that we're in a good position to work from when the lockdown ends. And one of the big challenges will be all the debt that firms are having to take on to tide themselves over this period. How are they going to cope with that in the long term? Some of the institutions in the city and City UK in particular have come together to look at recapitalisation. What would be the best way of recapitalising for the future? So I think there's some really fundamental questions about how the economy works and what role the financial sector plays in it that we're going to need to address. But yeah, challenging times, certainly a huge hit to the economy, but we're very confident that with London's fundamental strength, its innovation, spirit of innovation and cooperation will be well placed.
Jolly good. Thank you very much.